Hey gorgeous, welcome to Happy Go Fabulous. I am so thrilled that you're here. This is our space where we get real about life, the good, the messy and all the juicy bits in between. Real talk, real life and a whole lot of delicious living. But I must warn you, listening may cause unexpected outbreaks of fabulousness and real life magic. Hi, I'm Catherine and I am so incredibly passionate about helping inspired, motivated, impact-driven, freedom-seeking people just like you to do the deep inner work to create those beautiful outer wonders in life. It's all about revolutionising your relationship with yourself, where you fall madly, deeply in love with who you are and create a life so fabulous you can't wait to jump out of bed every morning to live it. Ready? Because ordinary living is so last season. Life's waiting and it's time to make it fabulous. Let's shimmy on in. Hi, gorgeous. How are you? I've got this big knot in my stomach. Actually, I had a big knot in my stomach and it's still kind of there. And what I thought I would do is record this podcast. This is another impromptu podcast that I'm going to work through how to release that knot in my tummy. And I get a lot of feedback. So thank you all for your beautiful feedback and comments about my podcast. I'm loving recording it again. And I just really am so incredibly grateful for the feedback that I get, that there's little pearls of wisdom that just seem to drop and land where they're needed. So, and that's what this podcast is all about. So that makes my heart very, very happy. And I get feedback that people love, on my socials and just in different areas where I'm unpacking things in real life. And I think that's what I don't know. I think I'm good at that. I don't know. Yeah, no, I think I am. And it seems to really resonate with people when they can sort of see even some of my thought processes. And it's not saying that that's always makes sense, but it just felt like it would be a useful thing to kind of unpack, because I know a lot of people experience these emotions and these feelings about things and don't quite know how to process them. So I'm going to I'm just going to share with you what I'm going through at the moment. And if that resonates, that's great. I'd love for you to comment and let me know if this does actually resonate and if it's been able to help you to move through some of your emotions. So a little bit of background. I had this knot in my stomach yesterday. I quite often have knots in my stomach for different reasons. And some of them I can go, yep, I know why I'm feeling that. It will be on the back of something that's happening. And I go, okay, I'm just feeling a bit anxious or a bit nervous or a bit worried or a bit whatever about this thing that's happening. When yesterday and today I was just like, oh, this feels a bit different. And I guess the key is I know myself pretty well. I know I've been doing this work for a lot of years. And I spend a lot of time kind of processing stuff. So I know myself and I can feel within me, it's just like, oh, this feels a little bit different. Or this is a regular knot that I have. This one feels a bit different. And just to give you some context, as I'm recording this, we're in March, so you won't hear this maybe for a couple of weeks. It'll probably be in April that you're hearing this episode. And so March is a busy month for me. It's busy work-wise. I'm heading to Canberra tomorrow. I've got a big corporate gig there that has been taking a lot of my headspace. And it's one where I'm not coaching, but I'm delivering a training program. I'm facilitating a program and it's information just the preparation for it. So making sure that that's all okay. So I've got a certain level. That's one of my regular, it's not even a knot, but my regular just alertness around, okay, I've got this big program that I'm doing. I've got a lot of other programs that I'm running, still in launch mode for Get Your Soul Glow On, When you hear this episode, that this current round would have closed, but I'll be running that program again. That's a beautiful one-on-one coaching program. It's a little mini mind about just getting that spark back in your life. So I'm running that. I am super, super excited that I'm starting to run events from Ananda, from our property. And I've been thinking a lot about that. There's stuff happening in our personal life that it's busy. So we've got stuff that we're doing and we're coordinating some different projects here at the property. So it's it's not that anything is out of control, but there's a lot happening. Oh, and it's also coming up to the 1-year anniversary of my niece passing away. So that's certainly impacting as well. So last night I've been doing some work with somebody, and I'm engaging somebody to do some work with me, and I don't want to go into the specifics of the details because that doesn't matter. And I also don't want this to be about anyone in particular. It's about me. So I'm doing work with somebody and I'm paying them. And there was a query that they had about the work that I'm engaging them with and engaging them for. And there was a query and they asked me a question, and on the surface level, it was a very straightforward question. But that's when my knot started happening. And it just felt a little bit uncomfortable. And I was just like, oh, I wonder what that's about. And I didn't have time to respond to the query last night. I actually didn't have time to respond to it, but there was a part of me going, oh, a worry. There was a worry. There was this feeling of, oh, I wonder what that's about. And then this morning, when I read through there was another message from them this morning, and they said, oh, can we just catch up and talk about this thing? And I'm like, oh. And that's where the knot was. And I'm going, okay, what's the knot about? What is that knot? Why am I feeling like this? And it's not just a twinge, like it's not a twinge. It felt like a knot, and it's in my tummy. It's in my, if I was to, you can't see the here, but if I am pointing to my body where it is, it's sort of in the sacral, and it's also in the solar plexus. So when we're talking about chakras, sacral is about our creativity, our sensuality, our sexuality, what kind of lights us up, and our solar plexus is about our identity. And it's about who we are. And if I was to say, it's probably more in my solar plexus than in my sacral. So this is the process I go through. What am I feeling? Where am I feeling it in my body? And why might I be feeling it? What's this actually about? So it was triggered from a very seemingly just matter-of-fact query. Somebody I'm working with got a question and they just want to have a conversation about it. So that's like, when I say that, it's just like, well, that's how you do business. That's how you work with people. But the knots joined the party. And so I'm going to take you through this little process. So it's just like, well, what is the feeling? Why might I be feeling that? And what's that knot? Where is it located? And that just gives me some different, if it was in my heart chakra, it might be more about my emotions, my feelings, my, the giving, receiving, love, compassion, forgiveness. But because it's in the solar plexus, it's like, oh, okay, so there's some stuff maybe around my identity and how I see myself. So then it's just like, well, what's this actually telling me? So I sat with, and so I've kind of been through this little process just before I was jumping online now. And I sat with that going, what is this not telling me? It's like I'm sick. And if you can see here, they're my scratchings on a sheet of paper. So I'm following my own process that I use. If you want more details about this, there's a little, I was going to say it's a short course. It's actually a really comprehensive program called Let's Get Limitless. And I'll put the details in the show notes. You might be interested in that. It's about going through very similar to the process that I'm going through now in much, much, much more detail. Then it's about actually focusing on the future and what you want as well. So it's about helping to release those old programmings and then to recode yourself for what you want. So I'm not going through that whole process now, but I'm going through an element of it. So let's get limitless. So I was writing down, what am I feeling? What is that not telling me? And it said, I'm sick, I'm worried. Then this jumped out and it said, I've done something wrong, I'm in trouble. And I've done something wrong. And there was a lot of energy charge to that. And then it was like, I've done something to upset the other person. Their needs are more important than mine. And then this jumped out and said, I'm stupid. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm just sitting there. This was maybe a 3-minute, 5-minute little exercise. Sometimes it's not quite as quick as that. Sometimes it's super, super quick. So it's just like, what's this telling me? So what started off from a knot of I'm sick, I'm worried, it just went straight to I've done something wrong. I'm in trouble, but I've done something to upset them and I'm inconveniencing them. I haven't even had a conversation with this person about what it's about. So this is all what's going on in my mind. And then it jumped out going, I'm stupid. Anyone relate? You might have your own versions of whatever that your not is. So it's about then uncovering the emotional triggers. So those triggers, the ones that were highly charged for me was I've done something wrong. I'm in trouble. I've done something to upset them and I'm inconveniencing them. And then the other one was like, I'm stupid. That was less charged than I've done something wrong and I've inconvenienced them. So it's almost like it's my fault. And so what I do is I write down all the things that I'm feeling or the beliefs that I have, and then the ones that are more triggered, I sort of work with those. The ones that's sick and worried, I'll leave those there, but I've done something wrong, I'm in trouble, I'm inconveniencing them, and their needs are more important than mine. So they're the ones that I'm going to work with out of that sort of process. You could stick with this longer. A question I often find that's really useful is to go, and what else? Like because sometimes we just get the surface level stuff, but then if we go, what else? And then if we allow ourselves time to really explore that, that's where we can get to the root of some of the things. But because those were pretty emotionally charged for me, and it was almost like, yeah, that's what I need to work with. So I scanned through that list, and then it's about what are the origins of these beliefs? Where do they come from? And, where does that belief come from? So what I do then is to go, I've done something wrong. Like I'm in trouble. Where has that come from? And I sit with it, and then it takes me back to memories. And there was a couple of memories, like I got into trouble lots as a kid. I don't know about you. I got into trouble a lot. I got into trouble for stuff that I deserved to be in trouble for, but I also got into trouble for things I didn't deserve. And that was kind of emotionally charged as well. But some of the memories that kind of came flooding, like came back in really quickly, was the kid next door and we were, oh gosh, I don't even know how we were. We were probably 8 or 10. He was a bit younger than me. But we set fire to we're practicing lighting matches in a paddock. And guess what happened? Yeah, of course, caught fire. And then I think the fire, we tried to stomp it out. And I think the fire brigade might have come. But I also remember having chewing gum in my pocket, and I gave Chewy, I don't know if my brothers, I don't even know if they listen, but if they listen to this, that I gave them my chewing gum so they wouldn't dob on me for setting the paddock on fire. And then I can't remember. So that was one of the memories. This same kid that he and I rode out to the local abattoirs. Like we lived in a country town, and it was, I don't know. Again, we would have only been 8 or 10 or something. So country town, rode our bikes. And we rode out to the abattoirs. Would you believe it was kilometres away? Well, from our place, it would have been 5 kilometres, I think. So that's a fair bike ride. And we went to look at the offal pits in the abattoirs, this is weird how this memory came back. But I got really bad asthma. And as a kid, I had really bad, this is interesting. As a kid, I had really bad asthma and I was in and out of hospital. I had, pneumonia and bronchitis. Oh, and I felt like I inconvenienced people. So can you see there's a link there just as I'm talking it through? But I got into trouble as well for being at the abattoirs with the kid next door. And I don't even know what happened because this is way before mobile phones. I don't think I could ride my bike back. So I think I got into trouble about not letting people know where we were, but then having an asthma attack and then making people worried. So it was about, I've inconvenienced them. I'm in trouble, but I've also inconvenienced them. And I also remember lots of other times that I got into trouble for stuff, but it's interesting that those two have popped up and they seem to be ones where I've inconvenienced other people. And what I do when I'm processing this, sort of saying, where does that belief come from? Sometimes I will get a feeling, an insight, a channeled guidance that it's actually from a previous lifetime. And it might be that I've brought that feeling, that emotion. I know that this very much around grief is not just a this lifetime thing, but when I went back and this stuff about being, I've done something wrong and I've inconvenienced people, it felt like it was a this lifetime thing. So I've kind of created that belief from this lifetime. And when I'm working through with clients, I'm sort of giving you a process of how I'm kind of giving you a snapshot of how I do it, but I have a process that I take my clients through, and I go through a deeper process when I'm doing it myself as well that really helps me to get to the root cause. So if you do have any of your own beliefs that you can't kind of crack yourself, we can just DM me, message me, and I can talk more about the more in-depth process that I go through to really unlock those limiting beliefs and the root cause. So I can really start to see those two things. I've done something wrong, I'm in trouble, but I'm inconveniencing people, that there's got energy, and it's probably a decision that I've made from when I was younger, that belief that I've created within myself. And then it was just like, I think about, is this belief mine or has it come from somebody else? Have I actually made that decision that I've done something wrong, I'm in trouble, and I've inconvenienced people? Is that the meaning that I've put on it? Or is that actually a belief that's come from conditioning, growing up, from parents, from grandparents, from others, from teachers? If you think about this, it seems to be around that 8 years old that these beliefs, that getting that feeling that I'm in trouble and I'm inconveniencing people. So, and then I ask myself, is this belief mine or is it somebody else's? And my dad's voice came through, and it was just like, be a good girl and don't inconvenience others. And it was just like, oh, that's interesting. I don't ever recall him saying that. I recall, actually, I probably recall being told to be good a lot of times at school. I got into trouble a lot, and yes, there's a pattern of being in trouble. So, gosh, a whole lot of things are flooding back now, but I don't need to share those with you now. But it was almost like Dad's voice just going, be a good girl and don't inconvenience others. So I'm sure he would not have said those words to me. Being a good girl, probably. Don't inconvenience others. I'm sure he wouldn't have even said that. But that's sort of the message that I've taken on. And so what I do, the next bit, is just to sort of think about, what are the hidden benefits of these beliefs? So why might I have locked onto those beliefs as being something that is still running? And I kind of think it's something that's running as a part of my programming. You know how our computers have their programming running in the background? This is something that's been running in the background. And I sort of think about, well, what might be some of those hidden benefits of these beliefs? And we call those secondary gains. So why am I hanging on to this belief? Because it's obviously serving some purpose. And it's the question I ask is how does holding on to this belief serve me? And then what would be the consequence if I let go of the belief? So what could happen if I let go of the belief? So then I just wrote down, how does holding on to this belief serve me? It's about I keep the peace. I keep others happy. That people pleasing stuff we can see. People will see me as, if I speak up, that people might see me as being forceful or aggressive or dominating, and then they won't like me. And then they won't want to work with me. And if they don't want to work with me, I feel embarrassed and stupid because people will think I'm not very good or a nice person to work with. So I just wrote down going, what does holding on to these beliefs serve me? And what would happen if I let go of the belief? So it's about, so I've probably skipped a few bits there in the processing of it. It's kind of hard to explain every thought that I've had, but the process of, not wanting to inconvenience people is that I keep the peace, that I'm not going to upset others. I'll keep them happy. And if I, and there was a part of when the processing that I was doing, it was about speaking up. And if I speak up, others will think that I'm being forceful or aggressive. So there are whole patterns of beliefs that are tied to this. You can see this there. And then it's about uncovering the limitations of these beliefs. So how do these beliefs limit me and prevent me from doing the things that I want to do? So I sit there and go, well, how do these actually, the belief of, automatically thinking I'm in trouble, that I'm inconveniencing people, that what was the other one? I've done something to upset them. Their needs are more important than mine. So that's coming up. That one had a trigger in it as well, that their needs are more important than mine. So these beliefs limit me, that people pleasing piece. And I bet lots of you can relate to that. I know most of the women that I work with, not all of them, some of the blokes too, that have that people pleasing element. They put other people's needs ahead of their own because they feel that it's not okay to express their needs. So people pleasing, it's also limiting me, but I'm denying my own feelings and I'm letting people kind of walk over me. I tend to stew on things. This is the bit where it really limits me. I tend to hold it in and stew on it. And I worry about that I've done something wrong. Silly, unuseful worry. So it's, and what opportunities have I missed out on because of this belief? And how has it held me back in the past? And I think when, and there's lots of gaps here, so I'm sorry I haven't been able to explain all of that, but hopefully you're kind of getting the sense of the process I'm going through. But some of the opportunities that I've missed out on, and how has it held me back? I take ownership for a lot of other people's mistakes. I take ownership. I can't recall taking ownership of the fire. I can't recall taking ownership of the abattoirs. I can't remember back there, but I know in my more recent years that I take ownership of mistakes that other people have made. And I will go, oh, that's okay. Yeah. Knowing in my mind that it's not my fault, but I will make it seem as though it's my fault just to keep the other people happy. And that's kind of crappy feeling. And I don't speak up because I don't want to upset other people. So, and this isn't in all areas of my life, trust me, but it is in certain areas of my life. And it's like I don't speak up and I jump to assumptions. So I can think of patterns like this knot in my stomach started because of a business acquaintance, I can't think of the word to say here, but about doing business with somebody and they've got a question for me. And then I'm jumping to an assumption that I've done something wrong. And that part of me wants to avoid that conversation because they might tell me that I've done something wrong. And there's a couple of other people that I've worked with that I've had that same knot in my stomach, but I didn't go through and process why. But I would avoid talking to them because I didn't want to be told that I'd done something wrong. And do you know what? It was nothing ever, ever, ever that I had done anything wrong. So that's obviously one of those limiting beliefs that's there. So the next step is, how do I know if this belief is true? Is there any evidence to support this belief? So if I think about this business situation and I'm jumping to the conclusion that I've done something wrong and it's my fault, there is absolutely no evidence that that is even the issue. They have just said, oh, I just want to check something with you. Like, man, that happens all the time. That happens all the time. But I've done this weird ass thing about putting meaning on that does not even need to be there. So there is no evidence that that is true. I am way, way, way jumping to assumptions that are not based on any fact at all. So what do I want to believe instead of my old limiting beliefs? So those limiting beliefs that I'm wrong, I've done something wrong, I'm in trouble, I'm inconveniencing other people's needs are more important than mine. What do I want to believe instead of that? That I'm doing things from the goodness of my heart and intentions. And just because people see things differently to me or they have a question, that does not mean that I have done something wrong. And that does not mean that I'm stupid. It is what I'm wanting to believe instead is that I'm doing things from the goodness of my heart, and people see things differently, and it is completely okay and it is completely safe to have rational conversations, and that's an old belief that just does not even need to be there anymore. So, and my needs are as equally important as others, and I don't need to compromise my needs. And just because I express myself does not mean that I'm inconveniencing others. It's about the meaning that I'm putting on it, which is an old meaning, and it's come from just some situations where I've put meaning on to say that that I'm inconveniencing people when I do something wrong, and that I'm jumping to that conclusion. So the step from here, there's still work that I will need to do around that because it doesn't feel complete for me. It still feels the knot has certainly settled. It feels it needs some integration around that, and it will be intentional with my thinking that that's just I don't need that anymore, and that it is completely safe to speak up and to express my views. It is completely okay for me to put myself first, and just because somebody has a question does not automatically mean that I have done something wrong. So there will be some more processing and integration that I will do around that. But what I've done is, by bringing it into the spotlight, it allows me to get some insight into what that knot was about. And it's interesting that it's old programming. It is definitely old programming around that. One of the little quotes I have in the workbook of the little playbook of Let's Get Limitless, which is that program I was talking about. Limitations are like those doors marked pull when you think they say push. They're a bit confusing at first, but you can get through them. Give those barriers a little nudge and get set to embrace your limitless possibilities. Strut right through those doors of potential with absolute confidence and rock your world. So what this is that they can be confusing, and sometimes we are not sure where that belief has come from. Can I categorically say that that came from my dad saying, be a good girl and don't inconvenience people? Probably not, but it's meaning that I've put on it. And when we're the age of 8, that's when we're very, very impressionable. We're in this almost like this sub-hypnotic state, semi-hypnotic state, where we are still forming our values. And so often what has happened when we are younger, we are taking on meaning that we don't even know. We're not even doing that at a conscious level. So that's part of the conditioning process. And it's about helping to decondition and recode those beliefs. But the first part is to identify what they are. So if you were having some sort of a version of a knot in your tummy, sit with it. And what is it? Where is it in your body? What is it telling you? Where is that coming from? Is it yours or is it somebody else's? Is it something that you made a decision, or has that come from conditioning of others, in this lifetime or even past lifetimes? And then how true is that belief? And how is it serving you? Because there's often, sometimes they're ingrained and we don't realize that they're serving us, but there's elements that I could see when I was working through that going, yeah, it's keeping me in that people pleaser mode in some elements, and not wanting to upset, not wanting to rock the, whatever you rock the boat, not wanting to rock the boat. So that will be some stuff. I think through this whole talking things through is not so much that I'm in trouble, but that I'm inconveniencing others. I'm going to do some more work around that, but I'm not going to do it here on the podcast because that will just, you won't want to listen to that. But what's that about, that inconveniencing others? So I would be interested in your feedback around beliefs that you have, and if this process helps you. If you want to work through that in more detail, the Let's Get Limitless program, it's self-paced, and there are sort of bite-sized modules around helping you to work through your limiting beliefs and limiting emotions and old programming. And there's also steps about taking it to the next step. What do you want instead, and how can you go about creating that future for yourself? So it's a beautiful program. It's an absolutely beautiful program. It's self-paced. You can do it in the convenience of your home when you feel like it. And because the modules are bite-sized, easy peasy to do. And there's a beautiful playbook that goes with it that you could work through without even listening to the modules. The modules are really just explaining it in a little bit more detail, but you could just work through the playbook in your own time to be able to do that. And I try and be pretty practical and make it real life for you to do and not too complicated. So anyway, thanks for that. I'm going to go and see what inconveniencing others is about, but I'm also going to go and make the phone call to my business associate, and I bet you any money it is just a really easy peasy thing that we're just going to talk through. But I will thank them for helping me to process something that's got nothing to do with them, but it's got everything to do with me. Hugs, happiness, and keep being fabulous, gorgeous. Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to Happy Go Fabulous. I hope you loved it. If you did, could I ask a big favour? Please subscribe, leave a review, and most importantly, share the love and let your besties know about the podcast. This will help get it into the hearts and ears of all the gorgeous souls who need a little bit of fabulous in their life. If you'd like some more high vibe happiness in your life, come and visit me on my Happiness Hive socials, and make sure you've signed up to my newsletter, your weekly drop of juicy goodness. Pop over to my Happiness Hive website and click on the link Working with Catherine. I'd love to help you make life amazing. Until next time, keep being fabulous.